Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's afternoon this time. I know I said yesterday it was going to be a morning stream, but yeah, that didn't happen, and well, it's fine. Maybe we'll get some other people from other time zones joining today. That would be nice as well. So if you're here, say hi in chat and let me know where you're viewing from, and then we will get ready here in a second. Let's see. Actually, I have to take a quick note here as well. How is everybody doing, folks? Are you having a productive day? I actually have quite a productive day, to be honest. Yeah. Also had some meetings in the morning, which is why my schedule changed. But it's part of the job, right? But now it's gonna be really fun, I reckon. I'm going to criticize myself in a good way. And we'll do that in just a second. Let's see here. Is everything in order? Almost. Oh, Nuno, you're here as well. That's nice. Hey, maybe you'll get some inspiration from this stream as well if you decide to stay, Nuno. Actually, what I'm going to do today is was inspired by what we did last week, Nuno, you and I, on your channel, and yeah, I dove deep into my archives. And here's the story. And as many people know, for the past years I've been writing this framework on this YouTube channel, right? But what many people probably don't know is that it's, I think, the third iteration, like real iteration on building a framework. The very first iteration is I started writing that in college, and it was part of my what's that called in English? I'm not sure, but like my end of year project thing. And I don't have that code right now. I tried searching for it because that would be that would be hilarious to review. But I actually emailed the guy I was working with together on it back in the day, asking if he maybe still has a copy. That would be really nice. If I manage to find that, I'll definitely be doing another stream of this type, because that's like even way older code. But then I have the second iteration of my framework, which I wrote for my blog basically, and it all started with a static generator, and I just kept building on it over the years. And only 2 months ago, I managed to migrate my blog from that system to Tempest, which is really good because the thing is super old. And I think that went through a major rewrite at some point as well. So that's actually what I want to look into today. I still have that code laying around. It's definitely not going to work, but there are some, I think, interesting things to to see what I did and to talk about. Now remember, you've got to remember this was 10 years ago. Yeah, for sure, more than 10 years ago, even if memory serves me right. So things are different. it's what I would consider pretty old PHP code, but I'm looking forward to going through it again. Maybe I'll recognize some things that I'm still doing today. Maybe I will facepalm at many occasions, but it will be a good exercise. And actually, I think all of us should do this once in a while, to just revisit one of your very old projects, to just see how far you've come, how much you've grown during the decade or maybe even 20, 30 years that you've been doing it. Now this framework stuff, these were my first real PHP style projects. I of course have still older projects, which were HTML websites, like very basic of course, but I don't have those anymore. And I already tried searching for them a year ago when I was doing some kind of video, and it's so unfortunate. I wish I still had the source code for those, but yeah, it is what it is. But this will be an interesting one. So, hello folks, good to see you here. Hello Nuno, Sabra, again the names, and Juan as well. Glad that you're here. If you're watching live, say hi in chat as always. It's good to know who's watching. Leave a like as well while you're down there in the chat. It only takes a second and it helps my my video. So and also maybe before we properly get started, maybe this is the time to also tweet about this live stream, you know, get the word out there, maybe share it with some colleagues or friends. Say, hey, come watch this guy who's going to roast himself 10-year-old self. No, that's not the way you say that, but 10 years ago past. Anyway, good. So let's see. While you're doing that, you're all sending a tweet, right? I hope you are. Nuno, especially you. That helps out. So yeah, my blog. Let me just quickly set the scene here. I don't know how this happened, but it was, I think, 2014 when there was this crazy static site generator hype, which was all about these weird setups that generated HTML from Markdown or YAML or something in between. And I wanted to do that as well, so I started building a blog. I was first blogging on Medium, so I wanted to do my own thing. So I figured that was a really good use case, and I did exactly that. But I wrote everything from scratch, as you do, and that led to well, Stitcher.io, the website. But the reason it's called Stitcher actually is because the static site generator was called Stitcher, because you stitch parts together. That's where the name comes from. I only later discovered that it was also a podcast provider platform thingy, but that went like bankrupt years ago, so that's fine. And I wrote this core kind of platform that I envisioned other people could use as a static site generator in PHP. Aiden is here as well, saying that there's a great blog post about not writing your own framework. I've done this 3 times now, Aiden. Well, maybe I should say 4 times, because Tempest went through a first iteration. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I would say 3 times. And today we're looking at that second iteration. But so yeah, I built Stitcher Core basically, and I envisioned it to be used, and I think there was, what was the name? Sculpin PHP, is that the name? Yeah, that was a static site generator. Actually, a static simple approach. Maybe I wrote this in. Oh no, hang on. This one in 2017 was this, but this was when the project was already going a little bit. Did I mention? Oh yeah, Jekyll and Hugo, right? Those were the other 2 I was looking into. Was Hugo written in? No, was it written in PHP back in the day? I don't remember. It was a pretty big thing. Sculpin is definitely written in PHP. I don't think it's a PHP 7 static site generator, so I reckon it's not as relevant anymore. But yeah, I took inspiration from those, built my own, and that led to Stitcher Core, which I very quickly abandoned again, because I found blogging to be, Yelmer, by the way, next time code from 15 years ago. Yes, but I'm still looking for that. I mentioned at the start of the stream, I just emailed my ex no, not like my classmate from back in the day, because I lost that code. Asker, no, I have that code. That's not really my code. I have a very old PHP project somewhere, but I don't think it like I'm putting all my hope in this one classmate. His name is Jeff. I haven't spoken to him in 10 years, so I sent him an email this morning. He hasn't replied yet, but we'll see. Stitcher Core, that was like, I wanted it to be like a platform to build your own static websites with. I don't think anyone ever did. And I discovered that I found blogging at the time more interesting than writing a static generator. So I kept working on it because, I had to update my blog every year with PHP versions. So, but I never really did anything else with it. Let's see here. I have a quick basic application that I made around 25 years ago before I learned how to properly program. Is this in PHP, Mar? Because if so, I am so happy to take a look and review it on stream as well. It would be so fun to get some more older code bases. But I'll start with roasting myself. So yeah, that's basically the scene, static site generator. But there are some things that I just always kept with me, and that led eventually to Tempest. It's within QBasic. What does that look like? I reckon it's readable, no? So yeah, my first dynamic website was 20 years ago, but used JavaScript and Ajax, and text files, because I couldn't afford PHP. What? You were just hosting text files? And like how then were you doing writes on the server? Or was it just like reading read-only stuff? But that's interesting. Not worth your time. Okay, Mar, no, but that's fine. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else here with a very old project? You can always let us know in the comments here. It was read-only. Okay, I reckon that's a good thing. So, actually, Jelmer here was he's my cousin, and we did a lot of code together back in the day. He's one of the reasons I properly got started with code. I'm reminded of my code wrote 10 years ago when I worked on legacy projects at work. So I reckon these are private code bases, Juan, and you cannot read. By the way, am I saying Juan right? I think I already asked this in a previous stream, but I'm not sure. When I worked on legacy projects, I reckon these are private repositories. This reminds me my very first real job. No, I had a couple of real jobs, but the very first stable real job, they had written their own framework as well. Actually, that blog post that Aiden was referring to, don't write your own framework, was inspired by that. And it's a fun little post, and it describes this framework, in-house framework that this company had written, where they had such a massive security issue that the TLDR is that if you wrote --admin instead of -admin, and they had like 200 websites live, you got access to everything. And that was because the authorizer and the the authenticator was doing this, and the authorizer did no. How did it work again? Anyway, it's described in this blog post. There was a reason for this bug, obvious, stupid reason. And so all of our CMS is more than 200 websites live. And just --admin, and you could access everything, the admin panel. I still write legacy code. Yeah. I just left a message on the Discord about the origins of Tempest. Well, you're in luck because the Discord is right here. Tempest origins. Oh no. Looks like a simple script will do. We can do this in vanilla JS, no problem. No need for a framework. I guess I should make this a bit more object-oriented. And it can't hurt to separate out the front end with templates. And the code will be cleaner if I add an abstraction layer over the database and I use an API endpoints. I guess I could document it and put it on GitHub. Maybe it will help someone out. Another JavaScript framework and already 1,000 stars on GitHubs. Tell me you didn't. Speaking of stars, by the way, Tempest just crossed 2,000 on GitHub. I mean, not bad, right? For a a project that was never meant to be. In my defense, this commit strip thingy, that's not how it went with Tempest. Definitely not. We just started coding on this as an educational exercise, and I don't know why, but people started contributing. Well, I do know why. They really liked the code and they liked being part of the community, but people started contributing, and yeah. It spiraled out of control from there. Aiden is here in chat, who is one of the main core contributors for Tempest as well. And Aiden was with me there at the very start. Maybe Aiden will say that, okay, of course there's always this hope that the things you make are appreciated by others. But it was, I didn't intend it for it to, that was not my intention. I have an old project from 2006. Wow, that was for a soccer game. It included a module called World Soccer where you can see the player stats and details. If you're interested, I can upload it for you now. Yeah, would be cool. Yeah, upload it. Send a link in GitHub if possible. In Discord. I mean, if you don't know how to get there, that's tempestphp.com/discord. Actually, I'll put it in the chat here as well. If you want to join, that's the right URL, right? So enough chit chat. Let's take a look at what I wrote 10 years ago. This is Stitcher Core. Let's see. Where should I start? Because this was actually, is this still a thing? I'm already distracted, but can I? Yeah. I think there isn't anything weird in my repositories. What was it called? Responsive images? That's still a thing. Interesting. I didn't know that was what's this? Downgrade to PHP 7. This was old me. Actually, let's clone this as well, because I cannot compose or install anything here. That doesn't work. So you know what? Just to keep everything in one project, we'll make their vendor. Yeah, why not? Vendor and then git clone, and we'll clone that in brand. Yeah, sure. Just so we can check it out as well. It should have been actually responsive images, right? I don't think this will trick the autoloader to work, but no, it probably won't, but hey. Oh, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Then we have the source code at least. This was an interesting package. Okay, so let's see. A good thing about 10 years ago, I did write some doc blocks still, which I had this period where I didn't do that anymore because I thought that code should be self-explaining. But now I'm kind of back to writing doc blocks when it makes sense, especially when in Tempest, where so many people are using your code base. You want, some explanation within the code itself without people having to look up external docs. So So the Stitcher class is a core compiler of every Stitcher app. This class takes care of all routes, pages, templates, and data and stitches. See, this is where the name comes from, everything together. The stitching process is done in several steps. Thank you, old me, for reminding me of that, with the final result being a fully rendered website in the directories.public folder. Oh yeah, I remember, was this? Oh yeah, this was how I did config. So everything was YAML here. There was this time when Symfony did so much YAML as well. I hope that's not the case anymore. I'm actually not sure. Yeah, YAML was the thing back then. such a stupid idea. Why did we think this was better than just configuration in PHP? I don't understand. In your Composer JSON, you can find a repository for that package and use the type path to use symlinks. Then you can edit the package directly, but still use autoloading. I know, Kevin, but the problem is I cannot run this. I cannot Composer up. I think I haven't even tried it, but it's not gonna work. I'm running. This was PHP 5.6. I'm running PHP 8.5 now. We're 8.5, right? Yeah, 8.5. Not bad. Not that bad for code that is 10 years old, honestly. Hang on, Nuno, you haven't seen anything yet. Yelmer likes YAML, but then again, I don't like Laravel. I don't know how these two are related, but I would say YAML is like the worst format ever. Like I wrote this whole thing based on YAML, so the only thing you had to do, actually, let me show you. So this is Stitcher. Oh yeah, we're gonna take a look at this if we have a chance, but that's not for now. Might be for another live stream. Let's go to master, the old master branch. Let me show you like my blog. This was before I converted it to Tempest. I don't even know how it works anymore. Source, content, blog. Oh yeah, site. Hang on, site.yaml. This was how the whole static site was powered, right? Oh, the disaster. Look at this. How ugly. And then you had like this basically just configuration for, so this was a paginated route, basically blog/page-1 blog idea. This is then the, it's still the same route, of course, blog and then the slug. And there were like all these configuration things you had to do with variables and config to make sure it got routed to the right place. Well, actually not routed to, because there is no router here. This is a static generator, right? So you are generating your whole website based on these YAML files. That's basically it. You're taking these YAML files, you're generating a website from it, and then there's no real routing because these are just HTML pages in the right directory structure. So I see your commit messages haven't changed much. I do have to give a shout out here to, I think it was Aiden who, or no, maybe it was Enzo with Tempest. What we started doing is these squash commits, right? When you merge a pull request, let me just open one. All the commits in here are just squashed into one and then merged into main. And it means that the only commit in main is the title of your pull request, and for that we have a like naming conventions, which I always forget, but it means you get such a clean commit history in on main, and that's so nice. And it also means that whatever commits are in your pull request branch don't really matter anymore. So I just whip everything there because I only have to come up with one name per pull request. That actually makes sense. Enzo brought up conventional commits, which are awesome. Yeah, I did the rebase approach for years, where I rebased my branch on master and then no fast forwarded on main. So you kept all the individual commits, but I don't know why that was a good idea. Configure dev container with PHP 5.6. Yeah, but we don't need to run this. It's fine. We just need to look at the code. You'll understand why. Let's see. I do like a good commit message, starting with the verb of what's happened. Yeah, that's another approach. For some reason, the DevOps at our company is against squashing. Yeah, I was against it too, but I think just because I didn't understand, or for some reason I thought I needed to keep that reference to whatever steps that happened within a pull request. But actually, you still have the pull request on GitHub. You still have the branch available if you want to in your Git history, so you can just go back there. That's I mean, it's just not polluting your main Git history, which is for me a lot nicer. Okay, so this is the kind of thing we were doing, right? And then let's see, we have blog idea, and then it used a template which was Twig. Oh, Twig. I don't really like Twig. And and then you assign some variables to it. So basically, this is what a controller would do, but then in YAML. Some variables, and then variable could reference to other variables, other YAML files, and this is then where all the blog posts were configured, right? And they referenced which was such a stupid idea actually, to have a separate YAML file. I should have used just Markdown with front matter, but yeah. Why is this? Oh, there we are. Yeah, and so those reference to. I'm so happy that this isn't like I don't have to do this anymore. Okay, going back to my core here, because we haven't seen anything yet, right? Stitcher. Let's see, the thing I wanted to start with, see, like lots of documentation here, because I knew that this was a complex thing and I probably would not remember. The core Stitcher function. This function will compile the configured site and run an array of parsed data. Compiling a site is done in the following steps. So load the site configuration, load all available templates, loop over all pages. That's that site configuration is actually that main YAML file, I think. Loop over all pages and transform every page with the configured adapter. So this is what made it possible to go from one page to dynamic pages, basically, like write variables. Loop over all transform pages and parse the variables which weren't parsed by the pages adapters. I think that's that was for like general variables, and then add all variables to the template engine and render the HTML for each page. This function takes two optional parameters which are used to render pages on the fly. Oh yeah, because this was the thing as well. I needed like real time as well while developing locally, while writing blog posts locally, so that you didn't have to regenerate stuff. That was also a thing. Yeah, wow. Hey, but good documentation, right? I think I'm impressed by myself. Let's see. So Stitch, and then okay, these are these filter thingies. Blanket. I called it blanket. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, so I load the site. I load the templates. This is filtering, and then I loop over the site. And this is actually, let's see. Yeah, I was already using these kinds of value objects back then. I also did a weird thing. I don't know why I did this. I had no recollection that I did, but after every curly bracket for a class, there's a new line. I have no idea why. I just do this now. I don't understand why I did this. And then the pages ID, the template path, which is literally here in the variable name. This I don't do anymore. That's just, I mean, this is a totally useless doc block. Of course, we didn't have types back then. So yeah, but this is necessary, but the variables of this page, which will be available in the render template. I don't know. Okay, maybe this adds a bit of context, but the adapters of this page, adapters will transform. Okay, so this is kind of okay. So this is kind of a value object, but with protected variables. I wouldn't do that anymore. Just like public array, you know. And then we construct it from an array of data, and you can see how, like, if you know Tempest a little bit, or if you've been following my blog, you know that I really like these typed objects to work with, right? And this is like one of the first times I actually started doing that, converting raw data, which was coming from a YAML file, to a typed object that I could then use throughout the rest of my code base. Well, typed object is relative because doc blocks, but it's it is something, right? You did get some static analysis on this already. Let's see. Aiden loves Twig. That's nice. Good for you. I don't. I think that that should be the new headline for the Tempest website. I'm impressed by myself. So much spacing. Mark, don't you like the spacing? This is something I learned doing when I started working at Spatie, I think. Or maybe a little before, because this was written before Spatie. I want well, this is not my quote. I think this was my colleague Sebastian back in the day who said it, like, he wants code to breathe. You want some breather space there. And I like to think of my code, maybe I'm weird in this regard, but I like to think of my code as reading a book, basically, like literature. And in books, you have paragraphs, you have punctuation in the right places. You have all these things that help make the reading experience more pleasant. And I actually did a talk about this. This was my very first conference talk I ever did. But okay, that's also a topic for another day, I think. Having code that's easy to read is just so pleasant. So yes, I like to add an enter here and there. I like to group things together that belong together, just because by looking at it. And, I like to, you can do this by squinting your eyes. You cannot really read the text anymore, but still you can see that structure. If everything is blobbed together, you don't really get that. And for me, at least, this really helps me, this breather space within my code, it really helps me to just find my way around what I'm trying to do. What I also do, by the way, is to have everything collapsed by default. It doesn't, well, I don't, yeah, I still do this, actually. I don't know why it wasn't collapsed by default. But especially in code that you're browsing for the first time, or after a long time, like for now, it's just so good to see this overview. Okay, we have these methods here with some parameters all untyped. I'm missing my types. It feels so weird. And then you can of course like oh, wrong. Yeah, okay, that was the wrong keyboard shortcut. But this really helps me, that structure in my code. Hey, I'm always confused when I join the stream and I don't get a pop-up asking for a like. I don't know how to do that. Your downstairs neighbor, please give me a like. Here's your pop-up. But thanks for reminding me. Was the spacing part of the PSR standard? Like the thing? The white space over here? I don't think so. No, I don't think it was. I only really started with hardcore PHP coding at PHP 7, and I'm so happy that I didn't use 5.6. So happy we have strict typing in PHP 8. Yeah. Wasn't because back then you were all about white space improving readability. Yes, but not this part. Like, I don't know why I did this white space. Like, this white space doesn't make sense to me, I don't think. But all white spaces, it does. How was the IDE support back then for doc blocks? Did the commons help in that sense at all? Yes, if I remember correctly, yes. I was using PHP Storm. I was just starting to use PHP Storm. And I think this is why I was adding the doc blocks all over the place, the types, because I realized they actually add some static analysis insights. And now Aiden is saying the other. Yeah, maybe my memory isn't serving me right. But as far as I remember, like when I started using PHP Storm, I think the doc blocks made sense because like type properties, this is the big, like we got types in PHP 7, but type properties only came at 7.4, right? So that's still, what was it, 2018? PHP 7.4. AI. Just, is this on PHP Watch? Is there a date here? 2019 even. So yeah, that was still a time, right? Before we could type in this. I remember that like type properties are my number one, like most impactful feature ever added in PHP, I think. If I could get to choose one feature, well, no, I don't want to choose, but type properties were such a game changer, PHP version release dates makes me feel old. Yeah, I mean, 5.6 was, this is when I properly started with PHP. It was like, we're getting old. Okay, so we have this page. I really like it. And there are a lot of methods here with a lot of doc blocks that also, allow you to make changes to the value object. I think these days I would make these methods immutable and return a clone, which with PHP 7.5 would be something like return clone this, and then this. Actually, I don't know if you can do this with this syntax. You cannot do with clone this. Anyway, so bad example. In some cases, I don't. Can you manipulate arrays with clone with? I don't think you can. Okay. So we build our page. We add all these pages to our site, and our site is a new site, which is again a value object. Implementing iterator, you can just iterate. Oh, this white space here, so weird. Iterate over it. Oh, here's what I didn't do. I didn't do enters over here. That's weird. Again, I do this because it adds this breather line, right? Especially when you have a long parameter lists, you get this fixed break that's consistent everywhere within all functions. It makes it a bit easier to read. Okay, so this is basically an iterator on top of pages. I like doing it. I could have just put everything into an array, right? Because there's nothing more here than basically implementing an iterator. I could have done all of this in an array, and still I do like having these objects that just are representative of the problem I'm trying to solve. They speak the problem language, right? That's not the right way of putting it, but they have meaning. Even though it's an array, I like that there is a dedicated type here for site, and that it has some meaning, even if that meaning is just for me reading this afterwards, you know. I started with PHP 4.2. Tell me I'm old. Breather line after that function is good. Okay, I'm glad we're in agreement there. Different age of PHP. Aiden, you started with 4.2. You were like, hang on. PHP 4.2 release date. Will there be a date here? You weren't even born then, Aiden, I think. There's no date here. And PHP Wikipedia, I think there's a table of all. (2002). Were you born in 2002, Aiden? Yeah, okay. You were 5 years old or something like that. No? Boy genius. Let's see. Okay, started when I was 8 on a project started by my father. Fair. Okay, cool. Impressive. Let's see. What else is here? The load template stuff. Why did I make these functions public, actually? Load templates. No, because I actually was accessing them in a public way. Let's see, I was using Symfony Finder here to loop over files. I remember file stuff was always such a big problem to solve here. I don't know. They were like with path generation and getting it right with the right prefixes and then adapters. If a page, yeah. So this was actually the most tricky part. So you start with one page, right? I should have kept this here. It takes a while to check that out. It's weird. You start with one page, but you actually have to split it into several pages, because from this configuration, you create a blog page for every ID, right? And it's like the tricky part with static site generation. You don't start from a route, you start from your configuration and generate all possible pages from that. And that's what adapters were for. And look at this, config get dependency. We need to look into that, but why did I do that? I don't think I had heard of dependency injection yet. That's weird. But yeah, you loop over all adapters and you basically go from one page to possibly multiple depending on the adapter. And these adapters came from here. So you had the collection adapter. I can show it to you, collection adapter, which basically, again, like properly documented here. Proud of myself. It transforms a page, and oh, here is a. This was probably written after 7. In PHP 7.1 then? No, PHP 7 I think was when we got parameter types. But no return times yet, so return page. And so you get one page, and then you do things on that page, and the result is an array of multiple pages. And then you keep doing that iteratively over all pages until all adapters are applied, basically. One thing I would say, I noticed I did have pretty long functions, but maybe it made sense to keep all of this together. Yeah, I was already programmed to not an interface. Yeah, it actually was the adapter interface. Yeah, but I had an abstract class in between. I don't know, what did this do? Get data. See. Oh, again, no dependency injection. Why? I don't think I had heard of a container before, but this is a container, right? So I had heard of a container, but it's like, oh, this is the Symfony container. I remember. I was wrapping the Symfony container, if I'm not mistaken, because this container builder, let's see, that's from Symfony, right? I don't think I knew that I could just retrieve stuff from the container, like with auto wiring, right? That's interesting. Like this is the most stupid thing to do. But also, like, textual keys, IDs for dependencies instead of using the class name. Yeah. Very interesting. But okay, I mean, there is a container there. I was just using it wrong. Let's see. We had our, so collection adapter, get adapter config. Oh, that was in that. Oh, on the page. Yeah. Okay, so it's getting the config stuff. It's validating that config. Then we'll get all things we need from that config, and then we'll actually perform the operation, which in this case was making a clone of the page, removing that adapter because we've parsed it, right? Setting a variable value, marking it as parsed because with that we needed to do that apparently, setting the ID, and the ID of course is in this case like this part of the URL should be replaced with the actual ID, and then we add that to our result and to our array of newly parsed pages. That's how it worked. And I remember this was the most complex part of the whole thing. Like in hindsight, it's not that complex, but yeah. What else? Let's see, going back to Stitch over here, we parse our adapters, then we find the right template. Why did I need to store those in an array? To be able to do this, I reckon. Okay. To do some validation. Where do these templates come from? Load templates. And this, again, interesting, right? Like how without discovery, you had to do all of this yourself. Like, okay, we need templates. Okay, we'll create a finder and we'll loop over those files in a specific directory. This is like the opposite of discovery in Tempest, and it's why Tempest feels so like just intuitive to me. I don't know. It's just there, you know. The framework has figured it out for you. You don't have to do all of this manual work yourself. You don't have to loop over files. You just write a new discovery class if you need to discover anything specifically. That's really interesting. Let's see. Then, oh yeah, Stitch. Let's go back here. We had our templates that were loaded. We checked whether they were set. Then we parsed our adapters. We already covered it. We retrieved the template. And then this I don't understand. Why is there a white space here, but not here? Would that just have been a typo maybe? I don't know. That's weird. then we loop over our pages, which I call entry page. And then we parse the variables for each page. Actually, my doc block does help me, right? Because the first step here was to parse the adapters, which will gives us for a single page, because this is in a loop, right? Yeah, this is in a loop. For a single page will give us possibly multiple pages. And then we'll loop over those multiple pages again, and then we have to still parse the variables, the raw variables, the variables that weren't part of an adapter. Mago wasn't a thing. That's why. I don't know. Then we'll render each page. This template engine, I think I had, hang on, add template variables. Yeah. And then we added it to our blanket, our stitched blanket, you know. We added it to our blanket. And okay, so we just basically render the HTML. Hang on a second, because template engine is like, I wrote an abstraction on top of Twig, because if memory serves me right, I wanted this to be like reusable. I wanted people to plug in their own template renderer, which I think is a good thing, right? Because everything then within my side of the code used this interface. And if you wanted to, because let's see here, we had our, oh yeah, we had Smarty. If we wanted to add another templating engine, we could just extend this interface and Stitcher would know how to work with it. Let's see, the Twig, and this is basically just, you know, setting up Twig. That's all it does. Yeah, extending from. Let's see, that was that. Oh yeah, but I also had a Smarty engine. Smarty. Did anyone ever use Smarty? It was the very first templating engine I used. I have no clue anymore what it looked like. Is it still a thing, PHP Smarty? Apparently. Syntax. Still using it in 2025. Grrr says. What are you doing? Like, I'm serious, like genuinely interested in understanding why are you using Smarty. Grrr. What's the thing there? Okay, so Smarty looks like this. This is okay. Smarty has the same problem, I remember now, but the same problem as Twig. That and why I prefer Blade a lot more. It's why I think Blade is by far the best templating engine in PHP, except of course for the one I wrote. But the thing with Smarty and Twig is that they are a language on their own. They have completely different syntax. You have to learn everything from scratch. And like this is a good example. Why is foo, which is an array, and bar, which is an array key, why do you need a dot here, right? Why not keep this syntax that we're used to? Why do we need a completely new language that has some similarities to PHP, but in other areas don't? That's just very confusing to me. And here Jelmer makes a good point. It helps, for instance, front-enders who are not PHP developers. They have to learn, well, you're making a good point, but I don't agree, because they have to learn the templating engine anyway. Might as well learn the PHP syntax. I just always found it confusing. Keep in mind that PHP started out as a templating engine itself. I like this comment. We have bigger problems than switching templating language. That's just great. I also found the dot more reasonable. Okay, but I understand that this might be more reasonable syntax than PHP. There's no one claiming that PHP is the best syntax. But to me, it's all about recognizability and just doing the things that you're familiar with. And the argument of it leans more towards JavaScript. Back in the day when Smarty became a thing and Twig became a thing, like JavaScript wasn't as big back then. So why would you choose to make a templating engine for one language? You can assume that all or at least most developers who are using your templating language will be using PHP as well. Why would you make it so different? So yeah. Now just imagine finding foobar again and foo.bar in views. I don't know what you mean by that, Andefno. Different syntax makes the front-end devs less likely to learn how to work with PHP, which seems counterproductive. True, yeah. Smarty loves the dot, and Twig does as well. What's about the Symfony starter kit here? Would you ever make a Symfony starter kit with your favorite libraries? My favorite starter kit is Tempest. Yeah, okay, but that's true. I mean, it's not a joke. Smarty predates jQuery. Yeah. And the final thing, you'll forget at least one view where foo is used in Smarty syntax. Yeah, so if I understand you correctly, Undef, you mean that like this distinction between PHP and then the templating language for PHP, it's not really helping. Yeah, I just don't see many like reasons to do this. One argument I would make myself in favor of this is we used Twig, or I think it was Mustache. Was it called Handlebars? I don't remember. We used it for our client who was making. We had this big CMS style thing, and they were managing their email templates within that CMS, and they need some kind of templating engine, simple thing where they could do some looping and some conditionals. That was basically all they needed. And so in that case, I agree that like this syntax might actually be more convenient than this one. So if you are not a developer at all, and on top of that, and this is important, on top of that, Twig does this really well, have a proper sandbox where nothing can leak out of it. At least I think Twig does it really well. Then yes, those are good use cases. But for developers themselves, I don't know. I love Plates, which is more pure PHP. PHP Plates, yes, that's by the league, right? The PHP league, and it looks something like this. And this is actually what the first iteration of Tempest's view engine also looked like. Eventually, I decided to still build something on top of that. I don't know. It just was a bit too clunky for me. But as a like something that to get you started, just standalone, this is a good extension on what PHP was already doing as a templating engine. In 2018, I was doing WordPress development by receiving the HTML and CSS from an in-house front-end engineer and then transforming it into WordPress. I don't know, was that a reply to something, or maybe I missed something? Anyway. So yeah, templating engines. Wow. Again here with the service location. Unbelievable. Why? And you could say that config get, it's to get config variables, but actually one thing that we decided in Tempest as well is that all config is also represented by objects, and these objects are discovered and are considered to be singleton dependencies as well. So config itself is a dependency just like anything else, and you just inject it and outwire it everywhere just like anything else. It's not something separate. And I really like that. Makes a lot of sense. It really does, yeah. Okay, let's see. Then we have, we are in Smarty Engine here, that's fine. What I wanted to look into now. So this was the Stitcher class, but then we return our blanket. And then what do we do with it? I think it's in the generate command. Let's see. Oh, and here is a class Stitcher. I don't know what it does. Oh no, that was where we were. Okay, it just has another method. So okay, so Stitcher, it stitches whatever route is, but this could be empty. I think route is, yeah, Yeah, I think so. And then we create a blanket, which is an array. By the way, this is just an array, right? Over here it's just an array. It's kind of stupid. So on one hand, I have an array with pages, which I call site, and then here I have a blanket, which is just an array. It's very inconsistent of me. And then we save it, and saving was pretty simple, right? It was just, yeah, and we just looping over it, because this is a rendered HTML at this point, and we were just, yeah, looping over all that rendered HTML and generating pages, dumping the file on the file system, basically. And from that point, these are, let me actually see here, because we still do this in Tempest. It's a pretty cool feature in Tempest where we have static generator. Yes. Let's see, this is in, yeah, public blog. It's just generating the whole HTML page, right? And then this is served with directly from your web server, which is super performant because you don't have to boot PHP even anymore. Oh, there's some spam again. Hang on. Go away. Okay. Good. I followed your example and started this framework from scratch. My third one, and uses Blade. It's really cool. Do you have a link, Juan? And like, do you want me to take a look? So what's really cool with Tempest, let me actually static clean here. So this is Tempest now. It's that whole static page generator thing. Basically everything that was Stitcher is in Tempest as well, but it's so much simpler now. And static pages. The thing with Tempest, you just mark a controller method as static page, and then Tempest figures everything out. And you don't have this separate YAML anymore. You don't have weird setup where you have a development controller where you do it in real time on the fly during development. These are just controllers, and if you happen to run the static generate command, it will loop over all these controller actions. It will generate routes for them. It will fill in dynamic variables as well. With data providers, you need something else, like an additional step for that, but that was also in Stitcher the case. And you get static HTML pages, which is really cool. So even like such an old project as this comes back into Tempest, which is really nice. And people said that they really liked the static pages feature. And it makes sense, right? If you don't need to boot PHP, if you don't need to boot a framework, if there's nothing dynamic going on, if it's just HTML generation in the end, why would you not just keep the HTML around, right? So, what else was here? We have our, so this was our collection adapter, which filled in dynamic route variables, but there was also a filter adapter where you could create a page based on a filter, basically do query style operations on it. So basically in YAML you could say only, like on this page, examples only show entries that have highlight variable set to true, for example. And title is A, apparently. I don't know. The order was meant to change the order, which for blog, well, yeah, okay, doesn't matter. But for the blog was also used to, to direction descending, right? And then pagination was also a thing that makes sense. And okay, that was it. With our commands here, generate command, but this was just all wrapping Symfony console. Install command, what did that do? I don't know. This command will generate several files as a base installation. Interesting. So this was really me preparing for this thing to be used outside of, and that never happened, luckily. Route command? Interesting. It shows, this was like more of a debug command, I think. And then routes to, oh, there's a siren again. Routes to just list all the available commands, routes. Oh, also debugging, basically. And then the dev controller. So this is when, so you have to imagine generating like all that YAML took a while, a couple minutes. And because it also did stuff like generating responsive images and things like that, which was really cool. And I also still use that. Yeah, I still use it on my blog, but it is custom implemented. So the way I write my blog content is I write some markdown and then I go to, I command tab to my browser and I refresh and I want to see that change, and that needs to happen very quickly. So I couldn't just wait around to like for the whole website to regenerate, or even for having to manually issue a command or use a file watcher or something like that to make sure that whatever changes I made were immediately compiled. I didn't want to do that. So I had this dev controller, which it was basically a dynamic controller, right? So it would take the URL, like it's a very normal approach, I would say, to it takes URL and it does some routing and it gets the right page. And then it generates that page on the fly and returns it. That's basically what this does. So yeah, some exceptions. Oh yeah, but was this? Yeah, nothing here. Okay. Yeah, I still do this, like dedicated exceptions with clear names. I don't think that's anything weird. Factories are apparently in, what is a parser though? Oh yeah. I haven't shown that yet. There are different parsers because there were different, like you start from a YAML file, but you could actually reference several different file formats like JSON, like images, like folders with files in them. And so each of those had their own parser. I had SAS support as well, which was really nice, actually. Like these days, we all have to run, I don't know, Bun or Yarn or whatever to compile our front-end assets. But all of this was done in the backend and like just on page refresh without having to do any like during development as well, right? And that was because there was a SAS compiler in PHP, which I don't think is a thing anymore. But that was really nice. I really liked that. Yeah, it was actually SCSS. And I really like the syntax. I think it's pretty outdated. Yeah. But it was a really cool feature. I wish like front-end development still worked like that, where we could just, refresh the page and things just worked without having to run any file watchers. I don't know. That's not, never been my thing. We had site and template, config, which was a very weird thing that also contained the container, and then console, and that was about it. Like pretty simple, right? But I remember having spent so many hours on this, and but it actually laid the groundwork for many of the code that came after it. So I am like still really happy with this, actually. Oh, here I notice. Here I have the bracket on the same line. Maybe that's the reason why there was a white space. No, because here I already had it on a new line and then still a new line. Okay. It's actually not that bad indeed for its age. Yeah, I think, it's still readable, right? And there are some things I would do differently, but it's I'm okay with it. the good thing about this is that there was never any like pressure or deadlines. This was just something I was working on when I had time for it, and I could just fine tune it, however I liked. And yeah, I really like that. Let's see. I also have that image thing, and this standalone package is this basically gets an image file and it calculates several variations for that image. It does so. This is the only time in my whole programming career that I actually had to do some maths. Let's see. It's in the file size scaler here. Okay, so if you don't know responsive images, the idea is that you have one image in your HTML. This is just part of the HTML spec, and you provide a source set, different variations of that same image with different widths. And depending on your device, you will the browser will load a separate image. And so you can have a smaller image for mobile devices, right? Why am I explaining this? This was new 10 years ago, but it's not anymore. I reckon everyone will understand. And so my reasoning was, I have these markdown files, which have images in them. Why don't I just automate that whole rescaling part? I have the source image. I can generate 5 or 10 different variations from it and just have them like downsize time and time again. And then parse that into a proper image URL with a source set. So hang on, I'll come back to the chat in a second, because I actually wanted to show over here what that looks like. So yeah, over here, right? Can I zoom this in? Ooh, no, it's gone. So yeah, I have this image. This is like the source image that was listed in my Markdown. But then while Markdown was parsing, I just generated all these variations for that image. And this is like I said, the only time I had to do real maths. Like, what's it called in English? Hang on. Comparisons? I don't know if that's the right word. Equations, mathematical equations, maybe, where you like have unknowns and you move things around until things work out. I don't know how to say that in English, but this was the only time I had to do this, because what I wanted to do was, I have this let's see, I have this source image, right? And what you want to optimize actually is the size of the image. You want the size to decrease in a reasonable amount of steps. PHP Annotated now also teaching you Dutch. Yeah, I'm trying my best. And what I really wanted to do is have the file size decrease linearly, basically. So let's see, drink for a second. So you have your origin file with its dimensions, but yeah, resizing is done based on dimensions, right? Like width and height, and not on file size. So I came up with this formula where I calculated a price per pixel, basically, which will differ based on the image. It can differ based on the image because of compression and on what's in the image. It's different for every image. So I calculate for this specific image what's the average file size for every pixel, and then I can downscale it that way and figure out the required width and the height for every step of linear downscale in file size. In the end, it was such an overkill, because whether it's like file size or not, or I could have just downscaled based on dimensions as well, and maybe like it would be small differences, but it wouldn't have mattered. There are enough variations here. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think that's what I considered. I always generate like 5 variations, but yeah, it was like this. This is the formula to do that. Let's see. We have a step modifier is like 10% or 20% if we're doing by 5. And then, okay, this was basically it. But the square root of file size over pixel price over ratio. But I figured this out myself. I was so proud. It's the only time in 10 years of professional programming where I needed to actually do something with maths. I don't know if that says more about me or about maths, but yeah. Anyway, algebraic equations, yeah, something like that. Time pressure from the job boss customer really kills code quality. No, yeah, it does. Which is why I like projects like Stitcher and Tempest, How would you configure custom media sizes with that? In my case, you didn't, because you didn't really need to. But you could, like, the idea was that there was something in your like in addition to the markdown parser where you configured it in markdown syntax. Basically, I never got around to doing that because I didn't need media sizes. Is my IDE config anywhere? You mean like my whole config? No, that's not anywhere, but there is, if you go to JetBrains Marketplace, I just published all my themes on so there's this one. Hey, I got a review. Thank you. I don't know. But there's also Tempest Lite. Let's search for Tempest color scheme. Yeah, which is the one I'm using right now. Can I give a review myself? No, probably not. And then there is also, what's it called? Photon Light, which is another color scheme based on Mozilla's color scheme they created when they redid their dev console. So I have those. But apart from that, there's nothing. I don't have anything published now. I was wondering, does someone have the Discord link? I have it for you. I mean, if that's okay. Here it is. Would you switch back to dark themes if you suddenly became hypersensitive to bright lights or quit programming? If I became hypersensitive to bright lights, I would think I would have to reduce my monitor's brightness more than I would have to switch color schemes. That's one thing. And if I quit programming, the only thing I would still do on my computer, I think, is writing, like novel writing, which why would you do that in dark mode? Hey, what up? What are you building? Azaki Elayak, something like that, asks. We were actually finishing up with going through code that I've written 10 years ago, which is a really good thing because it means we still have some time to show you or discuss the other thing I wanted to talk to you about. Let's hang on. Wait a second here. Okay, so basically that's my second most old project, and if that one ex-classmate of mine, Jeff, reaches out to me, and I hope he does. Actually, let me check if he did. If he still has that code base, it would mean that I could go through my very first, and from what I remember, no reply from Jeff, unfortunately. Like this is okay. I saw some people say it still looks reasonably good. Yes, but that older code base definitely didn't look reasonably good. So I hope I can find that as well, and then we can do another review / roast of myself. I know some people posted links in Discord as well. I'll check them out afterwards and see if I can come back to them. I have this other weird project. I know we're building a testing framework. I know we're coming back to that, but I just needed a break. This is gonna be a weird thing to explain, I think. Okay, so I have this friend of mine who is, I would say, who reads a lot of news, right? Just like the in Belgium we have this news website, like government backed news website, like just the main news. There are other more commercial news websites, but this is like the okay. And he reads a lot of news, and I find that he and I notice that with myself as well. Like the more you read the news, the more you get influenced by it. And I started noticing these patterns, and the thing that prompted this is that I had a discussion with him about this yesterday, about how we, well, in my impression at least, are not in a bad way being influenced, but we are in a way seeing like how should I phrase this without sounding like a nut job? I'm not like a tinfoil person here. It's just I just noticed some patterns on this news website, like clickbaity stuff, and we're seeing narratives being pushed. Yeah, but I really don't want to go into like super conspiracy theory. I think there are like with every organization, and news websites do this as well. You just see, you know, some things being preferred, some news items being preferred over other news items, and what I wanted to do is to spend like gather some data over time and see whether my assumption, because this is just an assumption, whether there's actually some truth in this or not. Maybe I'm just wrong, could be. So to give you one example, what I see happening, say there is like a big apartment building fire during like a day in a week, and some people die maybe. The days thereafter, you just see more news items popping up about other fires, house fires, apartment, that are totally unrelated. And I figured this cannot be like the only time that there are house fires in our country, right? We had there's a house fire. There were some burglaries a year or so ago where the same thing happened, and then suddenly every day for a couple of days there were articles about other burglaries, and so you start seeing these patterns. And I think the reason is we're all in web development, right? It's just because it's generating clicks, and I want to see if I can visualize that. That's basically my goal. The difference now, so it's always been the case, narratives have been pushed. The difference now is they'll lean into the shock factor to make it clickbait. Yeah. So I think it's good to be aware of this. And I just, I thought it would be a good, like a nice experiment to try and visualize this thing that's happening, because the thing with this is happening over time, right? I do see these patterns kind of, but then I'm like, okay, I forget about them as well. And so I want to try and visualize that. And what I'm going to do, or what I already did, is I have this, this is in Dutch. That's kind of annoying. Actually, now I'm syncing the, I'm now doing the English version, but the English version isn't like super accurate, I think. Let's see. Let's just sync this. Okay. So these are the latest 50 English articles, but I'll have to switch them to Dutch, because the Dutch version is much more accurate. But you're all English, so I'll stick with English. So this synchronization thing, that's just reading an RSS feed, right? I've done that before, and there's nothing really. I'll just run this in a cron job for months, basically. I don't think there is a way to get historic data. I haven't found that yet. Might look into that as well, because then it would save me some waiting time. But the interesting part is, what I want to do is I want to analyze the content of these articles with machine learning. And there is this really cool library. What was it called? I have it in my composer. Oh yeah, Code with Carrion Transformers. Oh, yeah, I already hit open here. So this is actually Kirian, who we was part. Let me see, PHP Storm blog, if I'm not mistaken, because it would be really awkward if I'm mistaken now. Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the people we decided to sponsor with PHP Storm this year for a whole year. We have this new program, not really new, but I revised it and put up. I phrased a proper strategy for it and a framework. You know how I like writing frameworks, you know. But how we deal with sponsorships, open source sponsorships, from the PHP Storm team. So this is one of the people we sponsor, and he has written this amazing library based on Python, which it's called Transformers PHP, and it basically is a layer. It allows you to, well, let me see. It allows you to. It's a toolkit for PHP developers to add machine learning magic to their projects easily, and it's really easy. It's super easy, and I'm really excited about it. What I haven't figured out yet is how, like, the Dutch part might be an issue actually, because it uses models, right? Pre-trained models from Hugging Face, but it needs a specific format or library. I don't know. It needs ONNX. I have no idea what, but it only works with this, and then your options become more limited. There are models trained specifically for Dutch on Dutch data sets, but they aren't like compatible with this one. And then so that's kind of unfortunate, but okay, we'll see how far we get with the English one, right? And what I want to do, I'm going to do two things. The first one I already managed to do. That's not like all that difficult. That's text sentiment analysis, right? Let's see. Sentiment over here. And that's actually because we're now switching to the English. To the English data set. I'm going to use the default one. And so the only thing you need to do is to call this pipeline function and give it a task, basically. And there are several tasks you can do. You can optionally give it another model to use, and then it will download that model. And with that, you can run it on whatever kind of text content you want. So over here, I have this command news sentiment, and let's actually open the database here. Oh, actually, let's migrate fresh and sync everything. Yes. Okay, so sentiment is now null, and then news sentiment. Okay, so now it has run that machine learned model. I have no clue how these things work on all this data. And so the data that I have available is the title and the summary. That's all that comes from the RSS feed, but that's enough, I think. Let's do it. And so for each news article, it generates a sentiment, whether it's positive or negative with a score. I could fine tune this some more to have more scores per to have a positive, neutral, and negative rating for every post, like combine them, but that's okay. This is something I would like to visualize over time, like how does the distribution of positive, negative evolve over time. But what I'm more interested in, and this is the thing I haven't figured out yet, is the keywords. So I have this title, I have this summary, like fraudulent websites fuel complaints about buying and selling. I don't know. So far this year, the Belgian covering received more than 30,000 complaints from customers. That is blah, 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 blah. Okay, so this is something about fraud, online fraud, right? And what I would like to do is condense all of this, the combination of the title and the summary, into an array of keywords basically. That's what I'm trying to do. And based on these keywords, I want to see whether I can, over time, see some patterns there. Like for example, the fire example, the building fire example, if we see that return over and over again in clusters, that would be interesting to me to visualize. Again, like, I already know this is the case, and many people in the chat also know this is the case, but still it's a cool, to me it's a cool experiment to visualize this, and then in a year from now see how things, like how trends basically evolved. But the problem with these keywords, so there is zero-shot classification, which it stands out in natural language processing by allowing models to classify text into categories that haven't been explicitly trained on. And this is, of course, an interesting one. I don't know yet. I hope someone in chat is like familiar with this. I already tried zero-shot classification out, and it kind of works. But the problem is you still need to provide like your categories. And I can give a demonstration there. Let's see. So we have our. Let's remove those because I need to enable that. And then the classifier, zero-shot classification, and let's just use the default model because we've switched to English now. That should be fine. So we have our classifier here. And we can run it on our summary or our title as well, like this. But the thing with these classifiers, zero-shot classifier, is you need to provide them with a fixed array of like keywords, basically, which is not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a way to have this part automated as well, because I can come up with a couple of keywords, but there are probably others that I don't think about, and I really wish that that I find a way to do this, to have this part be dynamic as well, and I don't know how to do that, and that's my problem. But let's just let's do like your keywords, right? Politics, public health, economics. Climate is another one. Coronavirus, yeah. Keywords, like this, and then it will. I can show you, right? Keywords, and then we'll see keywords. So it will create. It will match all my provided keywords with a score, and it will rank them basically. And so this one, let's see, Flemish Parliament to make efficiency saving totaling 23 million euros is most likely about economics. Makes sense, right? And I could do something like this. So if score is large, or is less than 0.5, we'll just continue and we'll skip that keyword. And then if we dump out our matched keywords, it's the first time doing it with the English data set. Maybe that's it is better actually with the English. And so economics with an accuracy or a score of 70% is likely very good. So let's do that for the whole data set, and it crashes. I don't know why it crashes. Fatal error, string replace must be of type string. Yeah, but this is in the thing. Let's see. Are you going to take into consideration major events? I think, but like ideally, if this this array could be automated, then that problem should be solved automatically as well. But yeah. Could you just have a table for each word and then count and add the tally each time you get a new post? There's roughly 75,000 words in English, so it wouldn't be too troublesome on a database table. True, but the problem is, like, what I want to do is not necessarily a word count. I want to be able to categorize these posts into more broad categories, because it's on those broad categories that I want to do some data analysis over time. I don't know if it's possible what I want to do. I don't know. But now it crashes. And okay, let's see. Where's my... Oh, this stack trace is not... Keywords command. Let's crash this over here. You know, I'm just gonna surround this in a try catch and see like if this happens a lot or not, because I'm not really getting this error. Yeah, okay, it's crashing. It's crashing everywhere, basically. Okay, that's unfortunate. Why? It did for some, most it didn't. That's weird. Hang on, maybe it's... Oh, I override the keywords, that's why. Maybe, result, basically. Just see, now we're getting some more results. And we're getting a lot of misses as well, but that's because my... Well, I think that's because my my predefined array is just not smart enough. Oh no, no, it's just that I'm not smart enough. Maybe you can find something by reverse engineering the VRT. That's by the news websites app, or checking the traffic with Packet Tracer. I did it once with the NMBS app that I wanted to make. Yeah, but I don't know what I like. It's not like I'm looking for anything specifically though. I suspect the categories are likely to appear based on the word count. But you need to remember, by the way, that we have a we only have a summary, right? So there aren't like many repeated words, and that's basically what I want. Like a word like a category like politics might not be mentioned in an article with Flemish Parliament, but still it should match for politics. That's kind of the thing. We have these tags, by the way, which comes from the news. These are in Dutch, even though it's the English feed. So we could do something with those, but they are very, very broad. Like this is about politics, but it's also about binnenland. How do you say that in internal, like internal country affairs? I first want to find out why my thing doesn't work. Also, what is undefined array key labels? That might be because now, okay. Hang on. All. $9.49. Okay, so that's already a bit better, right? And I think let's refresh here. So okay, so this I have no idea of it. Politics, that's fine. Climate, yes, that's accurate as well. Politics, this is about, yes. Economics, yes. Economics, yes. Okay, so that's accurate. But now I have this threshold, right? I can lower it, of course. I can do it like this, and probably there will be more matches. See? But it's probably less accurate now, because okay, so it matches everything. This is good. So yeah, I'm not really sure. Maybe I should just come up with a categories keywords array that's covering everything I want. Maybe that is the way to do it. I'm not sure. So if anyone watching has used machine learning before and knows if there is a specific model that I should use or another technique, I feel that zero-shot classification is like the most accurate thing I want to do. Actually, I have a colleague who's like a PhD in data science. I should ask her. I just there's a metaphone function that you could use and add a tag yourself against words that appear a lot. Yes. Yeah, so as a manual, I mean, yeah. But is it in this library? I don't think, actually. I don't think so. Because, yeah, computer vision and audio tasks are not really what I'm... Yeah. Ask Nathan. Oh, really? He teaches AI. Nice. I didn't know. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna play around with this a little bit more and see what comes out of it. And probably will keep you posted. Either way, this is a really cool library. It just works really well, to be honest. And it uses like default models, but if you want to use another one that supports this ONNX, which I don't know what that means, but format thingy, as long as you use this, like have your models compatible with these, you can use everything that's available on Hugging Face, which is really cool, I think. It's something worth looking into. So yeah, okay. Let me double check one more time whether Jeff has mailed me back. But he hasn't. Oh, Jeff. We'll see. We'll have to see. I hope my very old code, my version 1, turns up that's someday. But for now, I think I'm gonna wrap up the stream. This was good. It was yeah, productive. In a way, it was productive. I just read code today, but still, it's good to see like where I came from and where I'm going. So I want to thank all of you for being here. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and stuff like that. And then we'll see each other in the next one. Okay, bye bye.